planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet Stupid, Belinda Waymouth. Happy New Year. Look at you, Belinda, my darling.
Hi.
With the Save the Whale shirt on. How appropriate.
Well, I thought I'd better dress for my brand. It actually says, "Save the whales, save our souls." Can you see that?
I see. Okay.
So I'm really bringing it.
Well, that's great. There's a lot to get to, so I'll let you take the lead here and tell me where you want to start.
Okay. Well, as per usual, there is a lot going on out there. So there are a couple of good things and then a couple of not so good things. Let's start with a good thing. An amazing fine, the second biggest environmental fine ever imposed in U.S. history. It's this vehicle, they're a truck manufacturer, and they make the engines. Their name is Cummins. And they have agreed to pay $1.67 billion, $75 billion for violating the Clean Air Act. What have they been doing, you may ask? Well, they have been installing, allegedly, though they have agreed to the fine, but allegedly, they're called defeat devices. And what they do is they bypass or override a vehicle's own emission controls. And they put 630,000 of these in Ram pickup trucks. The models were the 2013 to 2019, the Ram 2500s and 3500s. They put these defeat devices in them. And then so one of those big bad boys. And then between 2019 and 2023, they used auxiliary defeat devices in another 330,000 vehicles. What is the pollution effect of this? Well, it puts out thousands of tons of nitrous oxide emissions. And why are nitrous oxides bad? They're super bad for respiratory illness and for asthma. So we don't want them in the atmosphere. And it's really amazing. Like I said, this is the second biggest ever fine. It does have to be approved also by a court, but they have agreed in principle they're going to pay it. It'll be paid to the federal government and to the California state government.
So it's good news, bad news. The good news is they are being fined. They were caught. But the bad news is that they got away with it for a while.
They did it. Yes. The bad news is they did it for all that time. And, this is why we have to have the EPA, because we have these laws and all vehicle parts and vehicle engine manufacturers have to be in compliance with the emission standards that the Clean Air Act stipulates. In manufacturing the trucks and the cars and, all the vehicles they're going to put on the road. And those are laws for a reason, to protect us. And, well done EPA for, finding this out. And
again,
it went on for years,
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to always get back to politics, but it does, I think, underscore the importance of having some EPA presence and the teeth continuing to be the EPA, something that, of course, the GOP and GOP administrations want to remove, understanding quickly the GOP administration was in charge. Nixon was in charge when the EPA was formed. But since then, it's been an effort to really undermine them completely and actually eliminate the EPA under Trump. So Bravo is then the first story. Moving on.
Okay, so then the second story, not so great. So this is about a pandemic that's happening with birds, and now we know, or we've known for a while, with mammals. So there's a very, very lethal avian flu, H5N1, and it's been around since 2020. It's killed millions of birds so far. And then we've just had the first confirmation of a polar bear that's been killed by it. And This is a big deal, obviously, because polar bears are already threatened. They're losing sea ice, and that absolutely has a huge impact on their ability to survive. And then the fact that this flu affects mammals. So the amazing thing about it, it's been around since 2020. It's on every continent except Australia. And this is the first that, one of these, sort of deep north species or, a polar bear has been found to have died from it. At first they thought it was something else. And then the more tests they did going in and looking at more and more of the bear's tissue. So what they think is it, either ate an ailing bird or a dead bird who had the flu. It's been found in skunks, in foxes, black bears, brown bears, sea lions. So far, it hasn't been too lethal in mammals, except the sea lions in South America. They apparently have been pretty decimated by the H5N1. And, this story reminds me of a couple of things, but right now we've got this incredible permafrost melting happening, above the Arctic Circle, and there's a park that's in Siberia, and what they're monitoring right now is how much methane is coming out of the permafrost, because that's what permafrost covers, things that decompose without oxygen rather than letting off CO2 create methane, and the methane is held under the permafrost, the ice, until it melts, and then boom, out it comes. Yes, and you get sort of incredible subsidence like this. But one of the things scientists have said is, what if there are ancient viruses under that ice, and those are exposed as the permafrost melts? So, as per usual, it's like we really have to do something about our emissions.
That is a truly, apocalyptic scenario on top of an already slow-moving apocalyptic scenario. It's interesting that you've got the bird flu, which is raging. This most recent round in this country, I think, has been particularly virulent and tough. Over 70 million birds in the U.S., as you mentioned, and 11.4 million affected in 1 month. And then you see the involvement, as you've said, of this polar bear. Then you point to the permafrost melting and these ancient viruses being exposed, and the population of the world not in any way built from the standpoint of our immune system to handle that onslaught. And it's, the only thing you can do is slow down the degree of warming. That's all you can do. There's no way you can inoculate yourself against them. So we're really facing, again, it's an existential threat.
Yeah. And the ancient viruses, that's not a proven thing yet. That's just this, could be, one of the results. Yes, no, we're really in uncharted territory, and it makes what happened at COP 28 even harder to sort of, reconcile ourselves with. It's like, this is go time. But what I want to do today is
what other good news do you have for us? Happy New Year.
Yeah, we're going to do a sandwich. We went from the good,
Oh, that's good. I thought we were doing a new thing like, how are we all going to die? Let's spin the wheel. It'll be bird flu. No? Go ahead.
No. So on Tuesday night, a wind turbine whirred into life 15 miles off the coast of Martha's Vineyard in the state of Massachusetts, and it's going to be the biggest, large-scale wind turbine development for the U.S., and it's really a big deal. So, okay, right now it's one wind turbine. It will be 5 within the first couple of months of this year, and it will go to 62 when the project is completely finished. It will power 400,000 homes. This is enormous because, I'm sure I'm always saying this, when Biden came into office, we had 7 offshore wind turbines only. We are so late to this game. We're not even in the top, 11 countries. China is way ahead of us, the UK, Germany, the Netherlands. Their wind turbines are just, it's crazy. But the great thing is this has happened. It will be 62. There's another project that's going to be off the New York coast, a Danish company called Ørsted. They're all over the world putting in these offshore wind turbines. And the Biden administration is very, very determined that, we really do this, and that by the year 2030, we're producing 30 gigatons, that's billion tons, gigawatts of electricity, and that would power 10 million homes. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. The one thing I should say, though, is that even though, we've got these tax incentives with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and that there are all these incentives for companies, we have been having, and it was even announced this week, so Ørsted have had other projects that they are now not going to build. BP and a big company called Equinor, they've pulled back. They're all citing, costs, inflation. And then, one of the other things, this hasn't been cited by them, but of course there's this huge pushback against them. And a lot of it is funded by, guess who? The fossil fuel industry. I mean, you have, residents saying we don't want you to, mess with our beautiful ocean view. But most of these developments are so far offshore, they're not going to do that. But we should just be, it just should be just wholesale adoption at this point.
Sure. There shouldn't even be a battle over this, and there continues to be.
Yeah.
It's I think you speak to the gains we make and the proven track record of those gains, and still, yet it seems to be an uphill battle. Let's be, and I had, it's funny, I was visiting Central and South America over the holiday period, and there's a lot of conversation about, these alternative energy. In fact, a lot of people were talking about smaller nuclear reactors, something that we've talked about on the show from time to time, when we talk about nuclear energy coming online to supplement a lot of these other alternative energies. And increasingly, that's getting a look, and that's getting a lot of conversation in, even emerging economies. So I just think of that as we look at wind and we look at solar, et cetera. What else do you have?
As far as news goes?
Yes, whatever you want to get to.
Well, I tweeted this morning, and it's so disappointing. So our neighbor to the north, Canada, who's supposed to be the gentle green giant, they just are not. And so there's been this really extensive research into their forestation practices in their boreal forests. They have a lot of boreal forest, more than, what you've got in Northern Europe and in the US. And the boreal forest is super important because it holds more carbon, way more, or not twice as much, but way more carbon than all the tropical rainforests. So boreal forests are super important. And Canada have, been saying for years, we're really good stewards of our boreal forest. We're very careful with deforestation, blah, blah, blah. And if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see the story. They are not. They've been lying, and they have been going in. And what they've done is they've clear-cut patches, and then they've left, sort of old 100 growth plus forest around it. But when you create too many of these bare patches in the middle, you create, they call them, you create these islands. And so species like caribou and other species that live in these forests, they have to be able to get from, one bit of boreal forest to another. Well, if you make the gap in between them too big, you really inhibit their ability to thrive. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. And it's tens of millions of hectares that they have allowed to be deforested. And it's such an important ecosystem, particularly for carbon sequestration. Like I'm saying, it's, I think it's over 720, I don't know, mega, giga, whatever, tons of carbon, as opposed to 325 when you look at tropical rainforests. So boreal is super important. And
the boreal is the cold climate forests, right? Isn't that essential?
So it's what happens around the Arctic Circle. So
Right.
that's why it's in, northern
Canada and
Europe
Alaska and
and Canada, yes, and Alaska, and Canada has the biggest lot, and where they've been doing this deforesting is in Ontario and Quebec, and they've sort of hidden it inside the forest. Gone and allowed them to clear cut. They allowed them to put in roads for the forestry vehicles.
This is for ranching and agriculture, or this is or this is for
This
drilling?
this is for wood. I mean, they're going in there. I mean,
Yeah.
look at it. It's just, and then to be lying, and Trudeau is lying and saying how, responsible they're being, and they realize how important it is as a resource.
Those
And-
sweet Canadians,
Yeah.
as it turns out, they can whip out a lie just like the Americans can.
Yeah, they can. And it's all about money. And, it's just, time is running out. And these are such important ecosystems. I mean, I can't stress it enough. The carbon that's in there, we need it to stay in there. We don't need it in the atmosphere. And it's this thing that we talk about over and over again, Mark. It's these short-term gains that will have long-term disastrous consequences. I mean, I was reading a BBC wrap-up of 2023 the other day, and I mean, it was communities all over the world. And one community who live in Western Sydney, like a big, rich country like Australia, and it's these suburbs in Western Sydney that have been built very quickly to, house a growing population. Well, they've become urban heat islands. It's all asphalt and concrete. There aren't green spaces. It's too far from the coast to get the cooling effect of the coast. It's sort of in the foothills of the Blue Mountains. And these people are suffering from the heat in the Australian summers, which are getting super, super warm. So it's not just people who are living in, favelas and shanty towns who've got corrugated, tin above them as their roofs and are sort of basically living inside an oven, in developing countries who are suffering. It's people in developed countries who are living in the poor part of town. And it's, this is happening. And so for Canada to be saying, hey, we're protecting our boreal forests and they're not, is just bonkers. It's just,
well, it's the cognitive dissonance associated with even those ads that major oil companies run and petroleum companies run, even as they plunder the environment, and they get some sweet classical music or light peace and beautiful vistas, and they'll say we're here to protect the environment and also give you the power you need. It's got this, it's BS, right? But I mean, they're essentially, they're greenwashing in commercials across the board. And as you say, they make this announcement to Canadians, these pronouncements, and then look at what they're doing in their own backyard. And as you say, in Australia as well. And then you're talking about the communities within the community that bear the brunt of it. But look, it's the world on fire, and Australia is a great example. I mean, it's all there. You need that carbon sequestration. My God, Australia is a great example of what's needed.
It's an absolute no-brainer. And then what happened in Canada this year with these terrible fires that they had? I mean, they were they were devastating. They lost millions of hectares of forest, and the fact that that they're in there, cutting them down as well. I mean, it just, it sort of beggars belief. It, defies logic. My head is exploding quietly. We just have to stop with this, this idea that the world's resources are, just ours to plunder, ad nauseum, because we've already reached the moment when we know they're not, so now we have to, get on with it.
This quick question from Edward Lee, who gives us a $5 super chat, and a big shout out for that.
Big shout out.
Why are the viruses a concern when they need a living host? Asks Edward. We were talking about the viruses to begin this segment, about the fact that the permafrost melt will release these viruses potentially. You said, look, this is just a theory.
That was pure speculation, because obviously with the H5N1, they are going from living host to living host. And what they would, describing with these ancient viruses under the permafrost, that is absolute speculation. So maybe I shouldn't have even mentioned it. But
it's being talked about. I mean, you're not the first person to mention it. I've read a lot about it, so it's definitely spoken of in the apocalypse domino. It's definitely one of them. So.
Well, I don't know if anyone watching or listening today, or if you've seen it, Mark, but did you see that British psychological thriller, the series Fortitude?
No.
Which was shot in a fictitious town called Fortitude in Norway. Well, this was mammoths that were thawing that had a parasitic, host that had laid eggs in it. These were wasps, not a, virus. But I remember watching that, and that wasn't that long ago. And you watch those things and you think, oh, well, that's not going to, happen in our lifetimes. And unfortunately, at this point, we sort of don't know exactly what's going to happen in our lifetimes, and we do know a lot of it. A lot of it is predicted, and it's already on the table. But yes, I don't know about I
for
do
sure you can't say it's a concern. Yeah. You can find Belinda. Follow her on Twitter X at Belinda Waymouth. You can see it there. Waymouth. Thank you, Belinda. And I like the fact that you had some good news. You had some encouraging news. And then you did, of course, serve up the fact that, we don't have long to be occupying this magnificent planet.
Well, we do if we get smart and right-sized right away. Come on, Mark. I mean, we do. We do.
No, I know. I'm
political will. We need political will.
No, we know the way, and it's a question of whether we take the way. All right. How about it for Belinda Waymouth, everybody? Thanks, Belinda.
My pleasure.
See you next week for It's the Planet Stupid.
More.
It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.